Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Julie, and on my channel I talk about everything immigration, everything Canada immigration. I talk specifically from the point of view of a student. Today we'll be talking about how to apply for a study permit, and I'm just going to be giving you an overview of all the things you need. So basically it's going to be like a checklist. I'll be talking about the study permit checklist, Canadian study permit checklist. So let's just go straight to the point. So first I want to talk about the admission letter. You see, admission letter is very important. That's the crux of the whole thing. So you want to make sure that your admission letter is there. Make sure that if there is any condition attached, if it's a conditional admission letter, perhaps one that needs you to send your transcript before you can get a real admission letter, make sure you do that to get the real admission letter. So go through the admission letter, check that there are no conditions and that you've fulfilled all your conditions. Just check that it's not a conditional admission letter. Very important. That's it. And then the second thing is the study plan or statement of purpose. So people call it different names. Some call it statement of purpose, some call it introductory letters, some call it what else? Like I'm talking about the letter that is centralized, the letter that you write to introduce yourself to the visa officer. So with Canadian study permit application, it's not in person, so you don't go to the embassy and have an interview and talk with a visa officer. It's an online application where you submit an application, or a paper application where you go to the visa representative office and then you submit a paper application. Either way, it's not in person. So you need a letter that talks on your behalf. This letter is like the reference point where the visa officer will be. Is going to look through that letter, or she's going to look through that letter to see what he or she will expect in the application. I call it a letter where you speak, through which you speak to the visa officer. So you want to make sure that the letter is clear. You write, you go straight to the point. You know, these officers spend, they do like how many applications a day. You are not the only one they're going to be considering your application, right? So you want to make sure that you have everything that you have in your application spelled out on your letter. So for instance, you should start by introducing yourself in the letter, and then afterwards you should talk about your study plan. Some people miss it here where they are very vague about their study plan. I mean, I know someone that has everything, has all the funding and all of that, but was denied, and I really think it has to do with his study plan. So together and with other people, we concentrated on his statement of purpose. We fine-tuned it because it was really rough, and we submitted, and honestly he got the study visa. So you want to really focus on this letter. Make it simple, make it clear, make it concise, state the point, and talk about everything in your application so that there is no ambiguity, so that the officer is clear. Okay, so in the studying plan, you want to talk about why you want to study the program you're going for. And here you tie in all of your experiences, all your educational experiences and your employment experiences with the program. This is very helpful for people that are trying to change careers. So perhaps you were probably a science major and now you want to go into accounting. So you want to find like a point of connection. Did you work in a bank for 4 years and then you want to change career because it's going to be a stepping stone into your new career as an accountant? Make sure you just tie it into something. And if you have nothing to tie it into your passion. Talk about how you're passionate about the program, but of course you should always have something to tie it into. Something, it could be a volunteer experience or a job you've done somewhere, just tie it in, or an experience you had when you were growing up. So just tie it into something. And then we are still on the study plan. You want to talk about your overall educational goal. For instance, if you're going for a master's, do you plan to get a job? Do you plan to still go for a PhD? Just do that and talk about that. And then you want to talk about why you are deciding to go abroad to study. This is particularly important for those that are going to be shelling out a lot of dollars to study this program. You want to talk about why Why are you interested? For instance, you've worked in the banking sector for like 4 or 5 years and you think that this MBA is going to be a stepping stone into your next career. That's a very good reason to, of course, spend your savings on a program. Make it clear that this is why. And now I want to talk here about those that have this age thing, those that are a little bit too old for the program they are going for. First, I want to make it clear that nobody is too old to do anything in life. Nobody is too old. If you're 50 and you want to start afresh and go for a bachelor's degree, fine. Just be able to justify why you are doing it. And it still ties into your purpose. You should be able to connect it to something in your life, like something you've been through or an experience or education or something. Just tie it to something. If you are an older applicant, make sure you make this clear. Why are you going back to school? You could be like, you could have taken time off to take care of your kids. It's allowed. You could do that. Just make it clear. Make it clear. Okay, so now we want to talk about, let me see. Yes, I think I've talked about everything I want to in terms of the study plan. So we are still talking about our statement of purpose. Remember I said that you want to talk about everything in your statement of purpose. I always advise people to like create subtitles. So if the title is statement of purpose, right, then and you introduce yourself, you could say introduction as the subtitle. Introduce yourself and then study plan. Talk about all these things I've said and then move to proof of funds. So for study permit, the proof of fund is one of the most important things when you are applying for a study permit. It's very important, and you must be able to prove without reasonable doubt that you have enough funds to tide you over during your program. So the IRCC actually they demand that you have $10,000 for your living expense. I'm talking Canadian dollars, not US dollars. 10,000 Canadian dollars. And apart from that, they also request that you have enough to cover your tuition. So if you are on a scholarship, make it very clear that you're on a scholarship. You cannot overemphasize it enough. Some people, you know, someone I know has been denied because it was, I don't know why, probably was vague. It didn't mention the scholarship. The only place where it mentioned the scholarship was in the form, in the temporary visa form. I have videos that talk about how to fill the form, so you want to check that out. And I also have a video that talks about this proof of funds. I know people have a lot of questions about proof of funds, so you can go over to that video and watch it. You understand everything clearly. But in this video, I'm just giving an overview of the checklist you need for your study permit, and we are talking about proof of funds. So make sure you show your scholarship clearly if you have one. Write it in the statement letter. Write it there that I have a scholarship of so $1,000 per year. Make sure you write per what? Per year. Make sure you write if it's per year or per month or whatever. So write that. And if you don't have a scholarship and you have a sponsor, be clear with your sponsor. Write it clearly. Who is your sponsor? How is it related to you? How is she related to you? Make the relationship clear, okay? And make the amount that they will be sponsoring you. Write it clearly so that the visa officer knows. Then also write the total amount that you have. So if you have funds from different sources, you want to write the total amount. So I have a total amount of $30,000 for my program. You could put the $30,000 in bold. Here is a breakdown of my funds. So is coming from Mr. This, my first sponsor. So $1,000 is coming from Mr. This, and he will be paying it every month into my account after I have traveled. So amount is coming from my mutual fund. And all these things you mention, make sure that you attach the proof in the application. So when the visa officer sees this, the officer will go to the application to see if you have the proof. So make sure you put that proof. As I said, watch my video on proof of fund to get more details about this, but just make sure that you put it clearly in the letter. And then you also want to talk about your employment. Yes, you talk about your employment, especially if you have gaps between when last you studied and now. Talk about your employment. Oh, I'm currently employed in so place where I've worked for 7 years, you know. And now another instance when it's important to talk about your employment in your letter is when you will be coming back. So if you have an employer who is sponsoring you, is paying for you, and you intend to come back to continue with the employment, make it clear in your letter, and mention the name of the employer, and of course attach proof in your application. And then finally, I want to talk about home tie. You need to put the home tie as well in your letter. As I said, make each of them a separate subtitle. So you have home tie, subtitle it, and then you talk about what you have to present for your home tie. I think home tie too is also one of the deciding factors of a study permit. The visa officer wants to know that you will come back, and you need to show the officer proof. So if you have a property, for instance, you have a house, you have a piece of land, undeveloped or developed, just put it in there, talk about it, and if you valued it, write the amount is valued at. It just shows that you have this amount of, you know, this kind of property at this particular amount somewhere back home, and definitely you're going to return because of that. Okay, so there are other types of home tie. There is pension account. If you have a pension account, put it there, talk about it in your letter that you also have a pension account. This is under home tie now. You also have a pension account valued at so thousand naira or $1 million or whatever. Talk about your funds. If you have mutual funds, for instance, stocks, if you have bonds, you know, all of that is good for home tie. And if you also have like a spouse who is back home, your children, your parents, mention it. Just make sure you mention it in your letter. So one more thing I want to talk about is for those that are minors. I know that not everyone is a mature applicant. I applied for my study permit. I wouldn't say as a mature applicant because I applied for a PhD. So I would say the age tallies with the program that I applied for. So if you have like a child and you want to apply for the child, be sure to clearly show how the child is going to be sponsored. IRCC favors parents sponsoring children because of course that's the norm. So if you're going to be sponsoring your child, make sure you show your statement of account, and remember, don't show it at least for 6 months. Okay, show it at least for 6 months and make it recent, a fresh copy from the bank. So if you're a minor, make sure your parent put in their account, and make sure it shows clearly on the statement of purpose that you have a parent. As a matter of fact, I would advise that the parent should write the letter. Let the parent write the letter, and they talk about how they're going to sponsor their child and how they want their child to study abroad. All these things I've talked about still comes in. So talk about how the child loves to do this, and then loves history, and that's why he's going for a history program. Tie it in clearly with all that the child has been through up to this point. Okay, and yes, I think that is all I want to talk about today in the overview of your study permit application. Do check out my other videos because I have a lot of good stuff for you guys. And if this is your first time coming here, you're welcome. Remember to subscribe so you can get notification when I upload new content. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Till the next time, bye bye.